In the previous video, we discussed extensively the poem, The Grieve Land of Africa. We discussed the analysis of the stanzas, analysis of the poem stanza by stanza. So if you haven't watched that video before, you can also search for it in this channel. You will find it. And today we are going to be concentrating on the themes and poetic devices used in the poem. Before then, I will briefly summarize the poem for you again, in case you haven't watched the first video. But it is advisable you look for it. Just scroll through the videos in the channel. You will get the video where I explain in detail all the stanzas of the poem. So this poem, The Grieve Land of Africa, is a poem written by Agostinho Neto, a poem that portrayed the situations in Africa, how the Africans were enslaved in their own land, how they suffer a lot in the hand of the colonial masters. Now, the poem was written in Portuguese because it was written by somebody from Angola. Agostinho Neto is a political figure in Angola during the colonial reign, and he was one of the voices that was against colonialism, and he was put in prison several times. A time he even ran out of Africa to the United Kingdom, and later he returned. He was in prison, charged for treason several times, and later he became the first president of Angola, and then he ruled his people effectively, not like the modern African leaders. And he lived from 1922 to 1979, and this image is just to portray how the Africans were enslaved, and this is a picture of slavery at that time during the colonial period, transatlantic slave, how the Africans were subjected to inhuman treatment and slavery. And also, as I said earlier, we have discussed the poem stanza by stanza before, and look at the first stanza. It's also talk about the experience of the Africans in the way the Africans were subjected to tearful wars. You can pause the video to read the summary and analysis, and also you can watch the previous video to make sure you have detailed explanation. As I said earlier, we will be concentrating on the themes and the poetic devices today. So another this is modern slavery in Africa. According to the poem, even the use of MasterCard, Western money transfer, Western Union, or even the borrowing, African countries borrowing millions of dollars from the United States or any other country, China or International Monetary Fund, and out of slavery, according to the poem. And now see the stanza 2 also. The Grieve Land also continue. The experience of the Africans were also more analyzed here, and why the land, who was a very good land, infamous and popular, became very a place that is set on fire or destroyed by iron and fire. That is modernization. Okay, this is also another ancient and the modern slavery. Look at the ancient slavery on the left side, and then look at the modern slavery where somebody wore a MasterCard and soda. So this is a pictorial evidence of this thing. Now this is stanza 4. Also, if you can pause the video, read it carefully. Very soon we'll get to the themes which this is stanza, okay. Look at this stanza 5 also, which also talks about even the corpses of Africans who were taken as slaves from Nigeria, from any other African country at that time, to the European countries, and some of them die along the way. The transatlantic slavery, how they were being ferried from Africa to the European country. Some died along the road, and their body were being thrown up in the sea. You know, when somebody died, and the person maybe the stomach becomes filled with water, the person will begin to float on the surface of the water. That was what happened. Then look at stanza 6 also. Stanza 6 also talk about how the Africans survived the colonial invasion despite the inhumanity, the cruelty, the dehumanization experience. Africans were able to endure and suffered and see and um, and endure it the day of victory and independence. Now, this is stanza 7 of the poem, which also continues to talk about how some of the Africans were dying, and the Africans, the land of Africa, is not dead because the Africans also are not dead. So, and the poem also described the Africans as imperishable. Okay. Now this is also, you can pause this and do a little assignment on this. You can answer any one of these questions, and then you can post your answer on the comment section. I'm going to comment on it. So let's go to the themes. Okay, let's go to the theme. So this is the beginning of lesson 2. Now carefully look at themes, the background of the poem, as we have discussed before. Look at the background of the poem. I have told you he is once a president of Angola, then he's a political figure in Angola and even in Africa at large at that time. Now let's look at the themes in the poem. The grieve land of Africa. You can see this image shows the freedom of Africa, or the expected freedom at that time. Now look at this carefully. We have about 4 themes here. We have theme of slavery, which is both ancient slavery and modern slavery, colonial exploitation, the doggedness of African dream and hope, and then the theme of living. Now the theme of slavery is of 2 types. The first one is the ancient slavery, where some Africans were taken from African continent to the Western countries, to the European countries, and they suffer a lot of dehumanization and maltreatment. Some of them died along the way. Some of them died while working in the sugarcane plantation, or some of them died even beaten to death or lynched at that time. So the racism at that time was very, very severe. And then what are the modern slavery we are in Africa? We see that in the modern time, even China has almost bought African continent, because several countries are indebted to China. So this is one of the modern slavery that Augustine Honeto was talking about. And also the borrowing money from IMF, the use of a Western money system, which are this MasterCard, the use of money transfer, all these are regarded as modern slavery by the poem. So the way we depend on the West, either for our clothing, either for our design of shelter, the modern building, and all those forms are regarded as modern slavery by the poem. So Africans, and even the way we wish to go there, before they were forcing the Africans to go as slaves, now the Africans are willing to go as modern slaves, queuing on embassies, making sure to try to secure, to get visa to travel out of African continent, to go to one of these European countries. That is also another form of modern slavery. Now look at the theme of colonialism and theme of colonial exploitation. Colonial exploitation is not a new thing to almost every African who have at least grown to a certain age, because the Africans were severely exploited by the colonialists. And note that it is not only in Angola, and it's not only the Portuguese that exploited Africa. The French exploited Africa. The British Empire, or the British colonial system, also was another form of exploitation of Africa. So as the European countries partitioned Africa to different countries, and then they took hold of African continent at that time, some in West Africa, in North Africa, in East Africa, in Southern Africa. So at that time, several African countries experienced a lot of dehumanization. Our natural resources were taken away. Our land were taken by force. And at that time, several Africans experienced a lot of dehumanization. Now, even the poet Augustine Neto was subjected to a lot of exploitation. So, colonial exploitation is not only the exploitation of the land, but even exploitation of individuals, personalities, and freedom. Then the black were not even given any form of freedom or rights, because everything they were doing there, they have to do it in accordance to the expectation and the command of the colonial masters. Okay, so African were exploited, land were forcefully taken, modernization setting, colonial African culture were destroyed at that time. So it was a severe experience by most of the Africans at that time who were living. Some of them who were against colonial rule were killed, were put in prison, were dealt with. Some ran away from their countries or from their homeland to another part of Africa or to even outside Africa because of the severity of the colonial exploitation. So land were seized and the gift of nature in the land were taken away. And that was one of the reasons why the land was angry, the grieved land of Africa. Okay? Now, look at the doggedness of African dreams and hope. It was the doggedness of the African dreams and hope that led to independence of many African countries. Because if the Africans were not determined at that time and not hoping to get freedom despite the experience, the unpleasant colonial experiences, it would have been difficult for the Africans to get independence at the time when they got independence. Countries like Ghana got independence earlier, and then Nigeria and some countries in the Southern Africa also. In fact, South Africa was one of the countries that the colonial masters never wanted to let go. It was a collective effort of other African countries that even salvaged the apartheid regime in South Africa. So, and not only in South Africa, even in the entire Southern Africa, it was also a horrible experience. And countries like Kenya, there was a lot of fights. If you have read Petals of Blood by Ngugi wa Thiong'o, or A Grain of Wheat by Ngugi wa Thiong'o, you will also see a little about the colonial experiences of the people. And Uhuru was not given on the platter of gold. So the Africans were dogged, they were determined in this power to see their dream and hope come alive, come true. And that was why even when they were being forced, they were being dealt with, they were being beaten by the colonialists, they never give up their land, they never give up their hope, they never give up the dream of having an independent African continent. They never give up having a self-rule government. And that was why even the poet who wrote this poem was elected as the first president of Angola. The poem was translated from Portuguese language to English. And now we see that the stifling of the Africans and several other things that were done to the Africans did not deter them. Africans were determined, and at the end of it, they got the independence. And the poet also lament that after the independence, some African countries are still being controlled by the West. Why? Because of the modern slavery. Because several African countries depend on the West for the economic development of the country, for manpower, for even system of government. And that was why the poet lament that despite the ancient slavery that we have gotten freedom from, we have entered another modern slavery, which can also be referred to as neo-colonialism. Now, look at another theme of living. The poem also argued that Africans are still living despite the problems, despite the exploitation, despite the degradation. So we see it in stanza 4. The first word is alive. The word alive is also found in stanza 2, in the line 2 of stanza 4. Why? Because the Africans are still alive. They did not die, which was the wish of the colonial masters, an attempt to wipe out the Africans so that the land can be taken from the Africans. But we see that the Africans were alive, though many of them have died in the course of a struggle for freedom. But many are still alive, and even the land of Africa is still alive. And then the hope is coming. The dream of independent country, independent continent is at the corner. So that is why the bubble up in the dream, as written in line 19, Africa still exists in the perpetual alliance of everything that lives. In line 22, you can see that also. And not only are they breathing, they shout out the sound of life and shout it out. Why do they shout out the sound of life? Because they are hoping for a better tomorrow. They are hoping that Africa is going to be independent soon, and they are hoping that Angola also is going to be independent, and the entire African continent will be independent, devoid of Western influence and control. Okay, so now look at this. See number 5, Africa as a land of grief. Yes, this is one of the dominant themes in the poem. Why is Africa a land of grief? Because of the situations we found ourselves. Because the Africans were being caged, and the land became a land of grief because the land also was crying because of the original inhabitant of the land were maltreated. So we see that individuals were dealt with. Some were thrown into jail, some were killed, some were stifled. So, and that was why several people have a repressed laughter, which the poem referred to as stifled laughter, in line 14. Now, the land was grieved because the land was being destroyed, mining was taking place, which was not benefiting the original owner of the land, and also the natural gift of the land were being taken away to European countries. So things that should be of benefit to Africans were being taken away by those who came as colonialists. So that made the land to be very grieved. Now, these are the 5 themes that that are dominant in the poem. Now look at an assignment. I want you to do one of these assignments also, and then post it in the comment section. I'm going to comment on it and also grade it for you. Okay, and then from there we can discuss further, discuss more. The video for the poetic devices will be next one, because already we are almost 18 minutes now to this video, and I don't want the video to be too long for you. So these the poetic devices will be in another video. Okay, thank you very much. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell so that you will be notified when the new video is uploaded. Thank you and have a great time.